Hello everyone. Today the topic which we guys gonna study is hyperaldosteronism. Hyperaldosteronism is excessive level of aldosterone secretion. The aldosterone is a hormone produced from the glomerulosa layer of adrenal cortex. So whenever there is an increased secretion of aldosterone, it is called as hyperaldosteronism. Depend on the cause of hyperaldosteronism, it is divided into two types: the primary hyperaldosteronism and secondary hyperaldosteronism. In primary hyperaldosteronism, there is some pathological process going on with adrenal gland. So due to pathology in adrenal gland, there will be increased production of aldosterone. But this increased production will be independent of renin. So there will be high aldosterone but low renin level. While in secondary hyperaldosteronism, there is overactivation of RAS system, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. So due to the overproduction of RAS system, there will be increased secretion of aldosterone. In this type, there will be high aldosterone and high renin level. Now we will study these two types in a bit detail now. Let's begin with primary hyperaldosteronism. The primary hyperaldosteronism is excess level of aldosterone secretion independent of RAS activity. It is caused by pathology in adrenal gland. It can be due to bilateral idiopathic adrenal hyperplasia, mean there will be hyperplasia of adrenal gland due to unknown cause, which will lead to high aldosterone secretion. The second one is adrenal adenoma, which is also called as Conn syndrome, and the last one is adrenal carcinoma. The adrenal carcinoma contribute to about 1% cases of primary hyperaldosteronism. So what will be the clinical feature of hyperaldosteronism? To understand it, let's review the function of aldosterone. The aldosterone acts on the collecting part of a distal nephron. In this part, the aldosterone causes increased reabsorption of a sodium, which will lead to hypernatremia. Along with that, it will also increase the reabsorption of water, so it will cause increased circulatory volume. Apart from these two functions, the aldosterone cause excretion of potassium and hydrogen ion. So whenever it cause increased excretion of potassium, it will lead to hypokalemia. And when there is an increased excretion of hydrogen ion, the patient will suffer from metabolic alkalosis. In short, the patient with hyperaldosteronism will present with resistant hypertension, mean hypertension which will show no response to normal antihypertensive therapy. Along with that, there will be hypokalemia and hypernatremia. But remember that this hypokalemia is very inconsistent finding. It occur in about less than 30% of our cases. One important concept which I like to highlight in the clinical feature of hyperaldosteronism is that the patient with hyperaldosteronism have hypertension, but the patient will not develop edema because the patient will have a normal volume status. How is this possible? It is possible because of a phenomena called as aldosterone escape. Aldosterone escape, whenever there is a high production of aldosterone, which will lead to increased absorption of water and sodium. So whenever there is increased reabsorption of water and sodium, at the same time there will be a compensatory mechanism will get activated, such as increased ANP. So when there is increased ANP, this will lead to increased excretion of sodium and water. So the sodium and water will be reabsorbed, it will lead to hypertension, but it will excrete with the same amount. So there will be a hypertension, but there will be no volume overload state. So the patient will have no clinical feature of pitting edema, rales or increased JVP. The patient will have a normal volume status. Now come toward the diagnosis of primary hyperaldosteronism, that how we will diagnose a case of primary hyperaldosteronism. For that we perform certain tests. The first test is the plasma renin activity. In primary hyperaldosteronism, there will be low renin level. Usually the renin is less than 1 nanogram per dl per hour. The second test which we should perform is plasma aldosterone concentration. In primary hyperaldosteronism, the aldosterone level will be raised. Usually it is greater than 15 nanogram per dl. With the help of these two tests, we find a ratio of plasma aldosterone concentration toward the plasma renin activity. Whenever this ratio is greater than 20, it will diagnose that the patient is suffering from primary hyperaldosteronism. So these three tests, plasma renin activity, plasma aldosterone concentration, and the ratio of PAC to PRA, are the usual screening tests for the diagnosis of primary hyperaldosteronism. After the screening test, let's discuss the confirmatory test for hyperaldosteronism. This test will demonstrate that there is an inappropriate aldosterone secretion. For that, the test is called as an oral sodium load or sodium infusion test. In this, we give oral sodium or sodium infusion. Under normal circumstances, the sodium will suppress the secretion of aldosterone. But when it failed to decrease the level of aldosterone, it means that the patient has inappropriate aldosterone secretion. So by now, with the help of these tests, we are sure that the patient is suffering from primary hyperaldosteronism. The second step is to determine the cause of primary hyperaldosteronism. For that, we perform abdominal CT scan to check the adrenal mass. On CT scan, there might be a bilateral adrenal enlargement. After that, we perform an adrenal vein sampling. It is an interventional radiology procedure. What we do in this procedure, we take a separate blood sample from each vein, right adrenal vein and the left adrenal vein, and we measure the aldosterone level. So when there is increased aldosterone level in both veins, the patient is suffering from a bilateral adrenal disease. And if there is a raised aldosterone level in only one vein, the patient have a unilateral adrenal disease. Question arises that why it is important to determine that whether a patient have a unilateral or the bilateral disease, because these two diseases, unilateral and the bilateral, have a different treatment option. So if a patient is suffering from a unilateral disease, the ideal treatment option is surgical adrenalectomy. But if there is a bilateral adrenal disease, we will prefer a medical therapy. In medical therapy, the drug of choice is spironolactone or eplerenone. Remember that the spironolactone can cause gynecomastia in about 20% of our cases. So that is why people often use eplerenone, but eplerenone have less efficacy than spironolactone. Both are the aldosterone antagonist. So now when patient have developed a gynecomastia with spironolactone, the patient can switch toward a newer drugs, amuloride, in a dose of about 10 to 40 mg per day. This drug blocks the epithelial sodium channel, which is regulated by aldosterone. So it is used in a place of spironolactone or eplerenone. But remember that in primary hyperaldosteronism, we never use ACE inhibitor or ARBs because the RAS activity is already low. So it will have no effect when we use ACE inhibitor or ARBs. So it was all about the primary hyperaldosteronism. Now we will switch our gear toward the secondary hyperaldosteronism. The secondary hyperaldosteronism is also called as hyperreninemic hyperaldosteronism. Mean that there will be increased level of renin, along with that there will be increased level of aldosterone. It usually occurs whenever there is a decreased renal perfusion due to renal artery stenosis, heart failure, cirrhosis, or rarely a renin secreting tumor. So whenever there is an increased production of renin, it will lead to increased production of aldosterone. It is called as secondary hyperaldosteronism. At the end, I will discuss two conditions in which a patient will present with a clinical feature of hyperaldosteronism, but the patient will have a low aldosterone and the low renin level. Why this occur? It is because there will be a non-aldosterone dependent activation of mineralocorticoid pathway. Under the umbrella of non-aldosterone dependent activation of the mineralocorticoid pathway is syndrome of apparent mineralocorticoid excess, also called as SAME. Remember that the cortisol have some mineralocorticoid activity. So whenever the cortisol bind toward the renal aldosterone receptor, the cortisol will convert toward the cortisone under the influence of an enzyme 11 beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase. So the cortisone have no mineralocorticoid effect. In same syndrome, there is a deficiency of the enzyme 11 beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase. So there will be an increased level of a cortisol. So whenever the cortisol will bind toward the renal aldosterone receptor, it will exert the same effect as aldosterone. It will exert the same effect of aldosterone in the absence of an aldosterone, such as it will lead to hypertension, hypokalemia, and the metabolic alkalosis. Along with that, there will be low plasma renin level and the low plasma aldosterone level. And to treat this condition, we usually give a potassium sparing diuretics such as amuloride, spironolactone. It will inhibit the mineralocorticoid effect. Second one is a licorice. The licorice is a substance used in candies and some tea. It contains a substance called as a glycerol retinic acid. It is a steroid and it exerts a weak mineralocorticoid effect by inhibiting the renal 11 beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase. So when we take the licorice in a large amount, it will exert the same effect of high aldosterone level, such as it will cause hypertension, hypokalemia and metabolic alkalosis, but there will be a low plasma renin and low plasma aldosterone level. These two diseases the same, and the licorice can cause effect of a hyperaldosteronism in a background of a low renin and the low aldosterone level. So it was all about the hyperaldosteronism. If there is still any question, you guys can ask, and stay tuned for more update.